They called us hands, not men hands. You'd ride up to one of the big outfits looking for winter work, and the foreman wouldn't ask who you were. He'd ask you a good hand. And the word meant exactly what it said. A hand is a part. Any hand can throw a rope, sit a night herd, brand a calf. The outfit needed 40 of them, and it did not much matter which 40. And if one hand broke or wandered off, you hired another, and the machine never missed a step. That was the deal. And every man riding for wages knew it. To the outfit, you were interchangeable. But here is the thing I noticed. Riding for a lot of outfits over a lot of years, the ones that ran on that logic alone. Pure parts, pure number. A man just a pair of gloves with a pulse. Those outfits could not keep a crew through one hard winter. Men drifted off them like snow off a roof. And the outfits that held their crews year after year through blizzards and stampedes and wages that were frankly the same as everybody else's. Those had a boss who did one extra thing. He knew your name, knew you favored a low cantle saddle, knew your mare was off her feed, knew you were sour about a letter from home. The work he gave you was interchangeable. The way he saw you was not, and men who were parts on paper would ride through a river of ice for a boss like that. And one more thing, while I am at it, the finest saddle maker I ever knew stamped his name into every piece of leather that left his bench. Ask him if that was pride, he'd say yes. Ask him if it was something else too, and he'd allow that it was. If a cinch strap failed and a man got hurt, that stamp said exactly whose bench it came off of. Pride and accountability. One and the same stamp. His name served him, and it served the man doing the checking, both at once. Now hold those two things in your head. The interchangeable hand who needs to be known by name, and the name stamped into the work, because 22 centuries ago, on the far side of the world, a man building the largest machine humanity had ever seen understood both of them perfectly, and he buried the proof 8,000 copies of it standing in formation, in the dark under a hill. Let me show you. In the spring of 1974, in a dry stretch of farmland in the middle of China, a few farmers were digging a well, and a few meters down, the shovel hit something that was not a rock. They cleared the dirt away, and looking up at them out of the ground, after 2,200 years in the dark, was a face. Not a jewel, not a god. A face, life-sized, made of fired clay, and unmistakably a particular man. This jaw, this brow, this set of the mouth. And when the archaeologists came and kept digging and kept digging, the ground gave up one of the staggering sights of this world. An entire army, thousands strong, standing in battle formation under the earth. Rank on rank of infantry, archers, charioteers with their chariots, officers, generals. Every one of them life-sized. Every one armed with real bronze weapons, still sharp enough to cut. Every one. Originally painted in bright colors that flaked to gray in the open air. 8,000 soldiers, give or take, buried in formation beside the tomb of the first emperor. The man who had conquered every rival kingdom under heaven and hammered them into a single empire, and who took an army with him into the ground. And out of everything about it, one fact is the one the whole world knows: the faces. Walk those ranks and no two are the same man. Here a broad-faced veteran with a heavy mustache. Beside him a lean young one with his chin up. Beside him a jolly sergeant you'd swear you've met. 8,000 soldiers, and the crowd stopping, gasp pulling. Guidebook headline fact is 8,000 faces, and no two alike. And there, at the gasp, is where every telling of this story stops. Marvel at the craftsmanship, wonder at the scale, and move on. Which means every telling walks right past the actual mystery, because the astonishing thing is not that the faces are all different. The astonishing thing is that they bothered with faces at all, because here is how that army was actually built, and it is not 8,000 sculptors lovingly carving 8,000 statues. It was a production line. The first true assembly line in human history, running 2,000 years before anybody in Detroit thought they'd invented it. The bodies were modular, legs pressed out of molds in one batch, Torsos coiled and shaped to standard patterns in another, arms in another, hands in another, standardized parts made by the thousand in separate workshops. Then shipped and assembled, this leg onto that torso, these arms, these hands like parts onto a chassis. Even the heads began as molds, a small set of basic face shapes, pressed out over and over, workshop after workshop. The whole thing was a machine for making soldiers, division of labor all the way down. And the Empire ran that machine with a rule that should raise the hair on your neck a little, because you have met it before, at a saddle maker's bench. The parts were stamped, pressed into the clay, cast into the bronze of the weapons. The name of the workshop, the name of the foreman, in many cases the name of the individual workman. And the rule behind the stamp was written into the Empire's law. Let the maker put his name on what he makes, so that if the work is bad, the man can be found. A quality control system with teeth. Your name, stamped into your part, so that your part could be traced back to your hide. The machine did not want to know you. The machine wanted to be able to find you. So picture the far end of that line. Standardized legs, standardized torso. Standardized torso. Standardized arms, a head pressed from one of a handful of standard molds. A soldier-shaped assembly of parts, traceable, replaceable, identical to 10,000 brothers. And then, right there, at the very end, where the machine could simply have stopped, something else happened. Craftsmen took up wet clay in their hands and their little wooden tools, and onto each standardized head they worked a particular pair of ears. A particular brow, this mustache, waxed just so. That knot of hair, those crow's feet, this specific weary patience around the eyes by hand, one at a time, on top of the mold, until, out of a handful of standard face shapes, there came 8,000 men, and no two of them the same. So now ask the question the guidebooks never ask. Why? This army was built to be buried, sealed under a hill in the dark, where no living eye would ever pass down those ranks. If the army is a machine, and it was built like one, then faces are a pure extra cost. Molds are faster. Molds are cheaper. 10 identical faces would guard a tomb exactly as well as 10,000 particular ones. And consider who was paying for it. The first emperor was history's great standardizer. In the world of the living, he unified the writing script, the coinage, the weights and measures, the width of cart axles, the law itself. He spent his whole reign hammering a messy world of particulars into interchangeable, standard, replaceable parts. That man. And the one place where that man paid extra, paid enormously, hand labor on 8,000 heads, was to make his soldiers individual. Why? Because whoever built that army knew something true about armies. Something every sergeant since the beginning of war has known in his bones. An army of pure parts does not fight. You can standardize the spear, the armor, the drill, the pay. But the thing inside a man that holds a line when the line is dying is not standard issue. A man fights as a particular man, seen, named, known to the fellow at his shoulder, distinct from every other soul in the formation. Make him truly interchangeable. Teach him all the way down that he is nothing but a part, and he will act like a part. Parts don't hold lines. Men do. So even a buried army, even a machine built for eternity, had to be built out of men. And so the machine paid for faces, and now put that beside the stamps, because together they complete the picture. The workman's name pressed into the part, that is individuality harvested for accountability. The soldier's face sculpted onto the mold, that is individuality issued for belonging. Two ends of the same production line, two uses of the same human material. And there, in the clay, 22 centuries ago, stands the operating deal of every large system that has ever been assembled out of human beings. From that day to this one, standardize the role, individualize the face. Take a man's uniqueness and deploy it precisely where it serves the machine. His name, where the machine needs to find him. His face, where the machine needs him to stay and to hold. And press everything else into the mold. Individuality was never the machine's enemy. Individuality is a component. Now, before you decide that is the bleakest thing you've heard all week, ride down off this ridge with me, because the story has one more turn in it, and the last turn belongs to the faces. First, the honest part. You live inside this architecture. Everybody does. Your job has a description, and the description is a mold. They could press another you out of it by Thursday, and the machine would not miss a step. That is not an insult. It is just what a role is. And the system knows your name and shows your face exactly the way the clay army does. Your name goes on your work where accountability needs it. Your face goes in the team photo where belonging needs it. None of that is a conspiracy. It is the same deal the sergeant and the saddle maker knew. It is simply what it costs to build anything large out of human beings. But know which is which. Know what part of your day is the mold, pressed out 10,000 times across the world. And what part is the wet clay worked by hand? The part that is actually particularly you, because the system, left to itself, will happily let you believe the mold is your face. And then remember this, the last thing, the thing I'd want carved where I could see it every morning. The first emperor built that empire to last 10,000 generations. It lasted 15 years. 15, the dynasty fell almost before the paint on those soldiers was dry. The standard script and the standard axles were inherited by other masters. The machine of machines passed into other hands and finally into dust. The whole vast apparatus of interchangeable parts died the way every system eventually dies. But the faces stood in the dark, holding formation, for 2,200 years. And when that farmer's shovel broke through in 1974, what looked up out of the earth and stopped the breath of the whole world was not the empire, and not the system, and not the standardization of anything. It was a face, one particular man with his particular jaw and his particular weariness, whom somebody's hands had refused to leave apart. They call it the Terracotta Army, the buried garrison of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor. 8,000 standardized bodies, 8,000 hand-finished men. The machine they were parts of lasted 15 years, and the faces have lasted 22 centuries, which is the arithmetic I'd have you keep. In the long run, the mold dies with the machine. The face is the part that lasts. Ride with me.